Welcome back to Story Mode. Can you believe in 1985 I was taken away from collecting video games again, this time by radio control cars. The 80s just seemed to be getting better and better. Mr. Mister, Tears for Fears, Eddie Murphy had a hit song, Dead or Alive, Huey Lewis with The Power of Love, Dire Straits, Money for Nothing with that incredible Polygon film clip, Phil Collins, Aha, Take On Me, but my favourite, Jan Hammer's Crockett's theme from Miami Vice. I cannot believe how many films I love from 1985. The Return of the Living Dead, A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, The Breakfast Club, The Goonies, Mask with Cher and Eric Stoltz, Commando, Rambo First Blood Part 2, Sylvester Stallone again in Rocky IV with Dolph Lundgren, and my second favourite of 1985, A View to a Kill, Dolph Lundgren's first film. But my absolute favourite movie of 1985 is
Back to the Future!
What an amazing year 1985 was, jam-packed with awesome music, awesome movies and awesome video games. But we're here to talk about radio-controlled cars and how I got into them. Well, I was watching a show called Punky Brewster. Now, Punky Brewster was mainly aimed at girls, even though a lot of boys watched the show. Well, I couldn't believe when I saw an episode called Girls Will Be Boys, all about radio-controlled cars.
There are more than 100 pieces in there. You'd never be able to put it together.
You mean because I'm a girl?
Well, yes.
I was in absolute awe watching that episode. I know it word for word. But I have to say the best part is the race at the end, when the Frog takes on the Hornet to win the flag.
And Richmond still holds the lead, thank God. The Punky scores it in. Coming over the bumps, it's a very close race, and Richmond loses!
Now the Frog was not cheap. It was around $400 for the radio controller and the car. And I didn't have that money at the time. And my mother certainly wasn't going to buy me a radio control car worth that much. So I had to buy one that was second hand. The disadvantage with that is I didn't assemble it myself. Having the collector blood in my veins, I had to have another radio control car. This time it was the Hornet. The good thing about the Hornet, I built it myself. This is the very one I built back in the day. The next car I got was a Hotshot. Unfortunately, there's not much left of this car. I would have probably pulled parts off it and used it on other cars. After a year or so, I got back into video games because maintaining these radio controlled cars is quite expensive, especially the gears in the gearbox. But it didn't stop there. In 1986, I got into competition racing with this very car, the Boomerang. This one's obviously seen better days. In the late 90s, radio control cars hit a slump and they were dirt cheap, even brand new ones in boxes. This is a Super Shot, which I've always wanted as a kid. It was $700 in 1985. Forget that. But in the late 90s, I bought this car for $250. That's right, $250 for a mint condition, unassembled car from 1985. As a collector, I wanted to collect all the Tamiya cars, but there's literally hundreds, if not thousands. I've currently got 100 cars and most of them in boxes. Some are even shelf queens that just sit on the shelf to collect dust. But don't worry, I've got plenty of runners. That's cars I use from a day-to-day basis. I got back into radio control cars in 2013, mainly because a couple of friends of mine, Mick and Daz, owned a radio control car shop. I love going there Friday nights to tinker with our cars. Well, I have to say I love radio control cars to this very day, and I plan to build these cars behind me. I'm just waiting for my son Luke to get a bit older. Well, what could take my attention away from one of these? Something that came out in 1986.